Martin, you're an experienced offshore sailor among a lot of other things, but for people who don't know you, please, can you make just a brief summary of your merits?
Yes, I started sailing on these waters here in Aarhus 30 years ago and did the Olympics 2008 with great success with Jonas Warrer. And then after that, I moved on to big boat sailing, offshore, inshore, anything. So I've done a fair amount of fastnets and Hobart and transatlantics and all the classic ones. So there's been a few miles offshore as well.
So I guess that you have been into the situation where you can look into a bad weather situation more than once.
Yes.
and what is that like? The reason I ask is that there's a really rough prediction of the wind in the Baltics for the next coming days, where the Garmin Run Denmark racers are heading out. What is it like to look into?
It's always a little bit. It's very interesting, and it triggers all your feelings. Because once you've been in it, you know what you're going into the next time. And also, if you haven't been in it, you're like, oh, what am I actually going into? Because it is a very fruity forecast, that is for sure.
But do we have any kind of advice how to prepare mentally for heading out in a storm?
First thing first, I would say, make sure you got the safety under control. Everybody knows where everything is. What do you do in all these different situations you can have? Man overboard, rig coming down, all that kind of stuff. Because sometimes you forget to do a little bit of that if it's just a light wind forecast. But you should always do it, and we always do it. But it's a very good thing to talk about the worst case scenarios. What do we do if this happens? That's one thing I want to state first, because it is looking fruity and a lot of stuff can happen out there. Except for that, make sure that you are absolutely sure about the reefing of the sails and make sure how that works perfectly so you don't have to mess around with that kind of stuff out there. Basically do all the simple, making sure you know how to do all the simple stuff, because it's a lot harder once it gets super windy. Things that are easy in 15 knots are not easy in 50 knots.
True.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good advice. I was just one last question. When you said with these feelings when you look into something like that, what can you elaborate a bit on that? Is it fear or is it anxiety or what?
It's a bit of everything. I think mostly it's respect for how windy it is and what can happen and how small you are on a sailing vessel in these conditions. You are in the powers of Mother Earth, and she can be fruity. And it's that kind of feeling that it's on, and it's something most people never experience in their lifetime, because normally you don't go out in that kind of forecast unless you have a race, and that's the difference here. And we got to go out and do it, as well as we're racing other people. We also want to win a yacht race, so there's that on top of everything else of just keeping the boat afloat. You also want to sail faster than the other guys.
Perfect. Thanks a lot. Any more to add?
Thinking right here, right now, I've seen a lot of weird sail configurations, and make sure that you are in the right sail configurations and don't go. I've seen a lot of people, then they just go jib down and no jib and then try to tag or whatever. And then you end head to wind and can't bear away and get stuck head to wind, and that's nasty. So make sure you know what you're doing with the sails. That I've seen that on more amateur teams a lot of times, that they do the wrong sail configuration and then they get into all kind of troubles.
So you still have a balanced boat with a front sail and a main sail?
Yeah. I don't. Yes.
Okay.
Kind of. I don't know what people have on their boats, but theoretically, yeah. Don't go upwind full main, no jib on or something like that. You need a little bit on here and there, then a storm jib and a reef sail and whatever. Just make sure you try and keep it a little bit balanced, otherwise you can get into all kind of troubles.
Thanks a lot, Martin. I think we'll broadcast this video as soon as possible for some advice for the participants before they go out tomorrow. Thanks a lot.
Plan ahead.